Watch Spy X Family with your mom, and here are 28 facts you definitely missed. Like, have you noticed this pin that Lloyd always wears? It's actually his spy organization symbol, and I'm shocked that he wears it, because you'd think a spy would be a bit more secretive. And while that's pretty cool, it's nothing compared to what I found out about Anya. See, when Anya was being tested on by scientists, they gave her a code name of 007, which is an obvious copy of James Bond's code name in the movies. And this little secret makes sense because the James Bond movies probably inspired Indo quite a bit when he was creating Spy X Family. But when these scientists were experimenting on Anya, they found out that she has one massive weakness in her psychic abilities. This secret flaw was such a big deal that they even gave it a name, eclipsing. See, every time there's a new moon, Anya temporarily loses the ability to read other people's minds. And honestly, I can't wait to see how they incorporate this plot point into future seasons. While Frankie is Lloyd's informant, he's also a part-time babysitter. When Lloyd and Yor go out, Frankie is the one they call to take care of Anya. He has a very chill relationship with Anya, almost like he's family. And this makes sense because when Spy X Family was first being created, he was actually supposed to be Anya's uncle. This never ended up happening because the creator thought it would make the story a bit too complicated. And I agree, because if Anya did have an uncle, the whole story would have to change because it wouldn't make sense that Anya was adopted if she had an uncle who was alive. To be honest, maybe it's because he couldn't take care of her. Because years before Spy X Family started, Frankie was actually a soldier. And what's even more interesting is that he actually met Lloyd way back during a war between Ostania and Westalia. Even though they were on opposite sides, they decided not to fight each other. They parted ways, but eventually reconnected when Frankie became a secret informant for the Westalia government. And Frankie is the one guy who's known Lloyd the longest. But the crazy part here is that even he doesn't know what Lloyd's real name is. But I don't think that any of us will ever find out the truth. And this is because it's very likely that Lloyd himself doesn't remember his own name. In the manga, in flashbacks to his past, Lloyd's own name is always blacked out when his friends say it. The only name that isn't blacked out during his flashbacks is his old nickname, Advisor. Now, maybe someone needs to give the advisor some teaching advice, because his daughter is this close to getting kicked out of school. And I'm surprised she hasn't already been kicked out of her school because her grades are abysmal. Maybe if Lloyd could teach Anya without making her cry, she would actually learn something. The shocking secret here is that Anya is actually really smart. See, Indo revealed that Anya is very talented at language-based classes, but the only reason she gets such bad grades is because she's really bad at spelling. And this makes sense. She's only 4 years old, and I didn't learn how to spell till I was 6. And because she's 4 years old, she uses her telepathic powers for the most immature things ever. For example, you know those chocolate eggs that have toys inside them? Well, she uses her psychic abilities to find out which chocolates have the toys that she wants. And just like other kids, Anya has a couple things that she really loves. We already know that her favorite food is peanuts, but did you know that her favorite toy is her doll? And her favorite show is Spy Wars. A small detail you might have missed is that the main character in Spy Wars looks identical to Lloyd. But Anya loves this show so much that when she eventually gets a dog in the story, she names it Bond, after the main character, who's called Bond Man. A little Easter egg here is that the little bow tie that Bond wears is a direct reference to the bow tie that James Bond wears. I mean, look, every version of James Bond has always worn a black bow tie. But what's funny here is that Bond's name was almost going to be Peanuts. And the backstory here is that the author thought a dog named Peanuts would be too similar to the show Peanuts about Snoopy. And that's interesting for sure, but nothing compared to the fact that Anya was almost supposed to be 14 years old, design on Ash, a character from one of his previous manga. What I didn't mention is that Anya was originally supposed to look much older, just like Ash. Can you imagine if Anya was 14 years old instead of 4? Something else I just found out is that Yor was also partly inspired by Ash. If you take a close look at her earrings when she's in assassin mode, they're identical to Ash's. You know what else is identical? Yor and Lloyd's childhood. Both of them lost their parents at an early age and had very hard lives as kids. The only difference is that Yor had a brother while Lloyd had nobody. And listen, Yor is super cool, but Lloyd is too. So after wondering who Indo likes more, I found out that he said this: I would love Lloyd's skills. He's extremely versatile and also has extensive knowledge and excellent judgment. With his ability, I would probably be faster at drawing manga. At the same time as drawing, I could even work out the story structure. And when asked why he wouldn't choose your or Anya's powers, Endo said that as a contract killer, he would probably be caught quickly and arrested. Endo also said he would hate to have Anya's powers because it would make him sick if he could read other people's minds. I don't know what he's talking about. I would love to read minds. And Anya's mind reading is definitely the coolest thing about her. But one of the cutest things about Anya is how she mispronounces so many words. The way Endo comes up with Anya's talking style is pretty interesting. He says that he can hear the way she talks in his head when he's brainstorming what to write next. Okay, let's switch things up here and talk about why every family who's adopted Anya has returned her to the adoption center. Before she was adopted by Lloyd, 4 different families adopted Anya, but every single time, the families returned her to the orphanage. And the reason is pretty simple. Anya always knows what everybody is thinking, and since she's a kid, she's just not that good at hiding it yet. Imagine adopting a kid who can read your mind. That's creepy as heck. And the families aren't the only ones who dislike Anya. Apparently, all the kids at the orphanage thought Anya was weird. And yeah, that's pretty sad. But there's a massive Easter egg in Yor's last name that I haven't seen anybody talk about yet. See, Yor's last name is Briar, and the word Briar means a thorny bush of roses. Now, the Easter egg here is that her code name when she assassinates people is the Thorn Princess. If you have an IQ higher than 70, you can figure out the connection here. And Yor definitely has a high IQ. I think she's really smart. But when it comes to cooking, let's just say she's not the best. Her food tastes absolutely horrendous, and it's only because she looks at the nutrients and always forgets to make her dishes taste good. Even worse, she doesn't think about making her dishes look appetizing either, which is why Lloyd does most of the cooking. And honestly, her bad cooking might be the reason that her favorite snack is apples. And what's even funnier about Yor is her hatred for insects. She hates them so much that she can't even bear to look at a picture of them. It's funny that a stone-cold assassin like her is afraid of little things like bugs. But enough about the funny jokes. There's a secret about Yor that hasn't been answered in the anime or the manga. It's something that nobody has the answer to, and it's the meaning of this date. Yor's personal file has a date on it that nobody knows the meaning of. This could be her birthday, the day she was hired at a job, or something completely different. Nobody knows, and Endo hasn't really revealed anything yet. This is Lloyd's handler, and her main job is to communicate with Lloyd and give him new assignments. While she looks elegant and well put together, she's secretly a huge mess at home. And I'm not just making this up. She got absolutely exposed by the Spy X Family fan book. The book revealed that she has clothes on the floor and doesn't do any of her dishes. Listen, her home is crazy messy, but at least she doesn't have a crazy little brother like Yuri, because Yuri is actually insane. He's so obsessed with his sister Yor that he'll fight anyone he thinks might threaten his relationship with her. And even though he can't find any fault in Lloyd, he still hates him for marrying Yor. It gets even worse, because this obsession of his affects his own romantic life. According to the manga, Yuri is a very good-looking man, but when the girls find out how psycho he is about Yor, they always end up disappearing. Now, that's a pretty cool Easter egg, but it's nothing compared to what I found on a couple covers of the Spy X Family manga. You see, each cover shows a different character sitting in a chair, but there's one important secret here. The style of the chair represents the character's personality. Lloyd's chair represents his calm and elegance, while the white color of Yor's chair represents her innocence. Anya's funky-looking chair is supposed to represent her immature and playful nature. And too bad there's not a chair for absolute nerds, because only a nerd like me could have caught this next fact. See, Ostania and Westphalia's relationship is an exact copy of East and West Germany's hostility towards each other during the Cold War. Germany had been split into 2 parts, and each half of the country was extremely suspicious of the other half. And there's a reason Endo created 2 names rather than just use East and West Germany. If he used countries that actually existed, he thought that his story would be a bit more limited in terms of creativity. Therefore, Spy X Family is based on the tension between these 2 countries, but only uses it as a model, and the actual setting is completely fictional. And while the setting is completely fictional, the quality of the show is very real, which has a lot to do with the studio producing the show, Shueisha. And while this studio is actually really good, I think one of the main reasons that Spy X Family is so well made is because they're getting help from Wit Studios, the studio that released 3 seasons of Attack on Titan. You already know that these episodes are going to be amazing if Wit Studios is working on them.